The divorce papers were already folded inside my briefcase. My signature covered the bottom line, and all that remained was hers. I believed my marriage was over, not because of one terrible fight, but because of 1,000 silent days that had slowly buried the love we once shared. As I stood outside our front door in a quiet neighborhood of Nashville, Tennessee, I heard my wife speaking on the phone with her mother. I wasn't trying to listen, but the words that drifted through the cracked kitchen window stopped me cold. In that single moment, everything I believed about my wife shattered, and I realized I had been preparing to leave the one person who had been quietly sacrificing everything for me. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us continue sharing heartfelt stories that remind us love is worth fighting for. My name is Michael, and 5 years earlier I thought I had married the love of my life. My wife, Sarah, had a smile that could calm every storm inside me. We built our lives together with dreams of raising children, traveling across America, and growing old on the porch of a little white house. But life rarely follows the plans we make when our hearts are full of hope. After I lost my engineering job during company downsizing, everything changed. Months turned into years of financial struggles. I found temporary work that barely paid our bills, while Sarah picked up extra shifts at the local hospital as a registered nurse. The woman who once laughed at every little joke became quieter every month. She came home exhausted, skipped dinner, and often fell asleep on the couch before saying goodnight. At first, I blamed the stress. Then I blamed myself. Eventually, I blamed her. I convinced myself she no longer loved me. She stopped holding my hand, stopped asking how my day had gone, and rarely looked me in the eyes. Every conversation became about overdue bills, broken appliances, or another expense we couldn't afford. The warmth that once filled our home disappeared, replaced by uncomfortable silence. I tried planning date nights, but she always found an excuse to stay home. I bought flowers, yet they sat untouched in the vase. Every rejected effort hardened my heart a little more. Friends told me some marriages simply fade away. My coworkers said people change. Even my own pride whispered that I deserved someone who actually wanted to be with me. Slowly, I accepted the idea that divorce wasn't failure. It was simply the end of a story that had already died. That Friday afternoon I met with an attorney during my lunch break. Signing the paperwork felt strangely empty. I expected heartbreak, but instead I felt numb. I told myself the pain had already happened months earlier. The papers rested inside my briefcase as I drove home beneath dark Tennessee clouds, rehearsing what I would say to Sarah. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed her car was already there. I reached for the front door but stopped after hearing her voice through the slightly open kitchen window. She was speaking softly with her mother. Her voice trembled as she admitted she feared Michael hated her now. She confessed that every day she wanted to tell him the truth, but she couldn't bear watching him carry another burden. She admitted she had secretly been working overtime because his father had fallen behind on expensive medical treatments after refusing to ask for help. She explained she had quietly paid thousands of dollars toward those hospital bills without telling her husband because she knew his pride would never allow it. She also revealed that she had been meeting with doctors herself after discovering a serious heart condition that required surgery. She had delayed treatment because she couldn't afford both her operation and her father-in-law's medical expenses. She simply prayed she could survive until Michael found stable work again. I couldn't breathe. My knees nearly gave out beneath me as every complaint I had stored against her collapsed under the weight of that terrible truth. While I believed she had stopped loving me, she had been silently carrying the weight of two families. While I had been preparing divorce papers, she had been preparing herself to risk her own life so the people she loved wouldn't suffer. Tears blurred my vision before I even realized I was crying. Every memory returned differently. The nights she came home exhausted were not signs of distance but sacrifices. The unopened flowers remained untouched because she was simply too tired to notice them. The canceled dinners weren't rejection. They were survival. I quietly walked away from the window and sat inside my truck for nearly an hour. I stared at the divorce papers until they looked like the biggest mistake I had ever made. Shame wrapped itself around my heart. Love had never disappeared from our marriage. Communication had. That evening I walked inside carrying only groceries instead of my briefcase. Sarah smiled weakly, apologizing for missing dinner again because she had another early shift. I looked at her face more carefully than I had in months. The dark circles beneath her eyes, the pale skin, the tired smile, they had been there all along. I simply hadn't wanted to see them because I had become trapped inside my own disappointment. Instead of arguing, I wrapped my arms around her. She froze in surprise before slowly hugging me back. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Sometimes silence heals more than words. Later that night, after she fell asleep, I quietly removed the divorce papers from my briefcase. I carried them into the backyard beneath the cool Tennessee sky and tore every page into tiny pieces. As the wind carried them away, I made myself a promise. If my wife had spent years fighting for our family without asking for recognition, then I would spend the rest of my life fighting beside her instead of against her. The next morning I confessed everything. I admitted I had almost ended our marriage. I admitted I had mistaken exhaustion for rejection and silence for indifference. I expected anger, disappointment, or heartbreak. Instead, Sarah cried. She admitted she had been terrified every single day. She believed if I knew about her heart condition, I would blame myself for not providing enough. She never wanted me to feel like a failure. She carried every burden alone because she believed protecting me was another way of loving me. That conversation changed everything. Healing wasn't immediate. Trust had to be rebuilt. We began attending marriage counseling every week. We learned how dangerous assumptions can become when people stop sharing their fears. We created one simple rule: no more silent suffering. I found a better engineering position several months later. The first paycheck went toward scheduling Sarah's long overdue surgery. Her operation was successful, and after months of recovery, the energy slowly returned to her smile. We also continued helping my father through his treatments together instead of separately. Years later, we often sit on our front porch watching sunsets over our little neighborhood. People sometimes ask us how we managed to save our marriage after coming so close to divorce. The answer is surprisingly simple. Love rarely disappears overnight. More often, it becomes buried beneath fear, pride, exhaustion, and unspoken pain. The strongest marriages aren't built by people who never struggle. They're built by people willing to keep choosing each other even after discovering how imperfect they both are. If I had walked through that front door just 5 minutes earlier, I would have handed Sarah those divorce papers. Instead, God allowed me to hear the truth before making the biggest mistake of my life. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and family, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your support allows us to continue bringing meaningful stories that inspire hope and compassion. Red Heart special request: before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Love grows through honesty." We'd love to know who is still believing in second chances. Today our marriage isn't perfect, but it is honest. We've learned that love isn't measured by how easy life becomes. It's measured by how willing two imperfect people are to carry life's burdens together instead of carrying them alone. Sometimes the miracle that saves a family isn't a dramatic event or a grand gesture. Sometimes it's simply hearing the truth before it's too late, and finding the courage to choose love one more time.